everybody, and welcome to the Seahawks Recap Show, News of the Week, Episode 6. And first things first, how we all feeling after the first week of the regular season? How we feeling? Because I know how I'm feeling. My team lost to the Rams in a pretty disappointing fashion, so I'm not feeling so great. I'm kind of disappointed, but that's just the way the dice rolls in week one, and we'll see what happens for the rest of the season. But welcome to News of the Week. And first things first, before we get into the show, if you like this video, please give it a like. If you really liked it, I would highly recommend you subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future uploads to this channel. And if you could please take the time to share this with anybody who likes watching NFL content. If they're a Seahawks fan, that's great. If they're not, then they could just watch a guy on the internet ramble about things around the NFL. Without any further ado, let's get into today's episode. And I promptly named this episode the Week 1 Circus because every Week 1, especially in the NFL, is a circus with some surprise results and things like that. So it's promptly named the Week 1 Circus. Let's get into the Week 1 recap. So we started off with the Chiefs and Lions. 21-20 was the score. Lions win that one. And already you can see that the Lions and Chiefs, if you ever put them on paper, did you expect the Lions to win that one? I certainly didn't. And this is how we just start off the 2023-2024 season. So it's going to be interesting. Then we had the Falcons and Panthers, 24-10. Falcons win that. Ravens and Houston, 25-9. Ravens win. Browns and Bengals, 24-3. Browns win that one. So remember when I said that, well, I'm just going to say it now. When you start the offseason and you're getting close to game day and you're getting close to week one, we look at all this and we look at all the predictions that people are making and, oh, this team could win the Super Bowl. Oh, this team could win the Super Bowl. Though those predictions, throw them in the trash because once you get into the regular season, crazy things can happen. And Exhibit A, the Bengals only put up 3 points after giving Joe Burrow a gigantic contract. The Browns beat them hard. So throw those predictions out because you don't know what'll happen in this season. It's always a toss-up in week one. But we'll talk about the Colts and the Jags. 31-21 Jags win that one. Vikings and Buccaneers, 20-17 Buccaneers win that one. Saints versus Titans, it was a 16-15 affair. Saints win that one. And then the Steelers and 49ers, 30-7. 49ers win that one on the road. They just came into Heinz Field and the Steelers home and just beat them clean. And when I said that the Seahawks are going to win second in the division in the NFC West, this is why. The 49ers are such a good team, and they showed it here. They showed their superiority, and we'll see what happens throughout then. Then we've got the Commanders. Now, Commanders versus Cardinals, 20-16, and the Commanders' first new regime change and a new era for Commanders football. They win that. And I can't wait to see what the Commanders do with a new regime because this is going to be very interesting out from the influence of Dan Schneider. And now it's a new era for Commanders football. And some things never change. Bears versus Packers, 38-20. Packers win that one. Bears fans, I'm so sorry. With all the hope you had, Aaron Rodgers is now to the Jets, and it seems to not matter who the quarterbacks are for the Packers. You'll probably always lose to the Packers. I'm sorry, that's a cruel fate. But the Broncos versus Raiders, 17-16. Raiders win, and it's deja vu for the Broncos. 2 years in a row, they lose by the exact same score by 1 point. And it's not looking good right now for Sean Payton in week 1. We'll see what happens with his Broncos in week 2. And to every football fan out there, if your team lost in week 1, I said this in the game recap of Seahawks versus Rams in the season opener, just take a breath. It's only week 1. Week 1 games, they matter, but they really don't because in the grand scheme of things that should happen generally, like things that you expect to happen, probably won't happen. It's always going to be a interesting week 1 throughout the season. So take a breath. Your team, whether they lost or whether they won, will either continue their stride or they'll get back in the win column. Just it's not your season's not over yet. It's only week 1. One game does not define your entire season unless it's late in the season. We get to the Chargers and Dolphins, and from what I heard, this was a very entertaining game. I didn't get to watch all of the games in week 1, but I heard about the Chargers and Dolphins game. 36-34, Dolphins win that. Tua Tagovailoa, I don't have his stats in front of me, but I think he threw for 300 yards in that game. And Tyreek Hill at the beginning of the season said he wants to hit 2,000 yards this season. And I think he got at least 100 or 200 yards in his first outing. So we'll see if that comes true. But we get to the Patriots and Eagles, 25-20. Eagles win that one. And we get to the Seahawks versus Rams. The Seahawks lose their home opener 30-13 to the Rams. Rams win that. And if you want to see my full breakdown of that game, I would highly recommend going to the Seahawks game recap playlist because I broke down the home opener for the Seahawks and I was not angry. I was just disappointed, and I'm going to try to make this a little bit brief because it still kind of stings a bit for me. But we'll see what happens in week 2 for the Seahawks. And for the final game, we had Bills versus Jets. It happened in overtime, 22-16. Jets win that, but it comes from an unlikely source. And man, the Jets look like they could be a decent team this year. So, week 1 injury report. And before we get started into this, I'm only going to cover the IR stuff. So I'm only going to cover long-term injuries and I'm only going to cover the IR stuff. If I went into the whole week 1 injury report and did every single questionable player that could be out for a game or could be sidelined for a game, we would be here all day. So I'm only going to do the IR stuff. J.K. Dobbins for the Ravens was officially placed on IR on September 12th with a torn Achilles, effectively ending his 2023-2024 season. And you know what? This really sucks. J.K. Dobbins, man, he's only played 24 games in his 3-year career. And this is a prime example of why in News of the Week episode 2, I talked about running backs and I talked about the NFL and how it's changed and how running backs might not get the money that you're probably expecting them to get, especially from the stars. And I think this is one of the reasons why owners will look at this kind of career trajectory and say, this is why we don't pay running backs. And it really sucks. Because I actually like J.K. Dobbins. I hope this isn't the end for him. I hope he comes back for his 4th year and he comes in and he shows up and shows that he can still play. But with a torn Achilles now ending his season, uh, I just feel really bad for him. We get to the Seahawks, and Abraham Lucas, right tackle, was placed on IR on the 13th of September. He was having a knee injury. This knee injury he was dealing with all throughout training camp. Just couldn't get many reps in training camp, and it looks like it affected him again in week 1. Although Lucas is not officially ending his season, though, he will not be eligible to return to the field until week 5 against the Cardinals. And we get to the Colts, and the Colts have a running back problem as well, missing out on Jonathan Taylor for 4 games. He'll come back in week 5, and now it's rookie Evan Hall, running back. He was placed on IR on the 12th of September with a knee injury, and he's eligible to come back in week 5. But I really want to know from Colts fans, if anybody is watching this, who are your running backs? Because again, you're missing out on Jonathan Taylor. Now you're missing out on Evan Hall. Is D. Ernest Jones a guy who is going to be your starting running back? Because I have no clue. So if you could really help me out, find out who your starting running backs would be for the next couple of games, I'm all ears. We get to the Houston Texans, and they have 2 players on IR. It's wide receiver Noah Brown and Hassan Ridgeway, the tackle. They were both placed on IR on September 13th. Brown has a groin injury and Ridgeway has a calf injury. They will both be eligible to come back in week 5. Someone that might not be able to come back. I know Aaron Rodgers has said he wants to come back, and he will have his doubters fuel his recovery, but Aaron Rodgers was placed on IR on September 12th, an Achilles injury. And this is effectively ending his 2023-2024 campaign. And he only played 75 seconds in quarter 1. And here's a thing that I want to talk about, and I know everybody's talked about this, but is it time for him to retire? Because from all the little bits of the 2023 offseason, he went into a darkness retreat. He wanted to decide if he was coming back to football or if he was just going to retire right right then and there. He decides to come back, and now with a torn Achilles, is it time to retire? Because if he decides to come back, he'll be 40. And honestly, I think he should look after his health primarily. He's had some major injuries in the past, not only with this Achilles tear, but I believe he's broken both his collarbones in recent memory. And that your body just can't take that amount of punishment. And I wonder if this new injury will influence his decision into whether he retires or not. This is a kind of a nice segue into what I want to talk about next, and that is the NFLPA executive director urging the NFL to return to natural grass fields. And I'm going to read the statement from Lloyd Howell, the executive director, and then I'll give my thoughts on this. So, moving all stadium fields to high quality natural grass field surfaces is the easiest decision the NFL can make. The players overwhelmingly prefer it, and the data is clear that grass is simply safer than artificial turf. It is an issue that has been near the top of players' lists during my team visits, and one I have raised with the NFL. Well, we know there is an investment in making this change. There is a bigger cost to everyone in our business if we keep losing our best players to unnecessary injuries. It makes no sense that stadiums can flip over to superior grass surfaces when the World Cup comes or soccer clubs come to visit for exhibition games in the summer, but inferior artificial turf are available for our or acceptable for our own players. This is the this is worth the investment and it simply needs to change now. And honestly, I completely agree. I've agreed with this kind of thinking for many years. Okay. Let me go through a small list off the top of my head that I can remember where players have had their seasons ended from just walking on the artificial field, from non-contract contact injuries, like Sterling Shepard tore his ACL. Odell Beckham, when he was with the Rams in the Super Bowl, tore his ACL, ending his Super Bowl run. Look at Nick Bosa. He at MetLife tore his ACL. Aaron Rodgers, the most recent example, also tore his ACL, non-contact injuries. And this is what I'm saying. We're losing our best players, the most money generating kind of players, like an Aaron Rodgers. How many jerseys does he sell throughout a season? And you're losing him in week one to something that is utterly, completely preventable. I know the NFL will have to make a big investment. Maybe they'll spend, I don't know the exact number, but maybe they'll spend $1 million trying to re-outfit fields and everything. But you've already done that. You've already shown that you can do that. So why is it that we go to artificial turf for the NFL, but we can't just have natural grass? Because you've done it before. And talking about the investment, that investment, you'll come back next year. If you make that investment now and you come back next year and it's like, oh, we've made that huge investment, we lost money. The amount of revenue you're going to get from the next season will not even like that'll cover the investment plus it'll cover it tenfold. Like you'll still make a profit and you'll be out of that investment. So it just works for players involved. It keeps the players safe and it'll benefit business of the NFL going forward. So I don't know why this decision wasn't made sooner, but I'm believing now it needs to be done. It really does. And I hope the NFL and Roger Goodell and the executives will come to an agreement and make it so that players won't have their seasons ended from just non-contact injuries that are out of their complete control. But let's talk about something that is a little bit more heavy for the ending of today's show. Terry Pegula, the owner of the Buffalo Bills organization, has a discrimination lawsuit filed against him. Not only him, but Jerry Jones is also mentioned in this lawsuit, and the NFL is now being forced to have to investigate. So, the lawsuit filed by longtime reporter Jim Courter alleges that in 2020, a fellow NFL media reporter recalled a conversation he had with Pagula, who was speaking to the reporter about the NFL's social justice initiatives and Black Lives Matter. The reporter, who was not identified in the lawsuit, told Torter and approximately 40 other NFL co-workers during a Zoom call that Pagula said if the black players don't like it here, they should go back to Africa and see how bad it is. The lawsuit states that Torter, who is black, pressed executives at NFL media to investigate Pagula's comments, which were highly offensive and racist, but that he was repeatedly brushed off and told that the league office is investigating it. Pagula has denied making the comments. The lawsuit also mentioned Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, who allegedly told Torter in 2020 that if blacks feel some kind of way, they should buy their own team and hire who they want to hire. Neither Jones nor the Cowboys have publicly commented on the lawsuit's allegations as of Tuesday afternoon. And so that's what's reported by ESPN. And I know these are just allegations, but, and let me just say this off the hop, and I think everybody can agree on this. Racism just isn't okay. If you have these types of opinions, you can have them because I won't be a guy that'll go, "Oh, you shouldn't have these opinions." I'm not going to be like that. You can have your own opinion, but please just don't say it in a microphone. Like don't make it news, please. Like know who your audience is, know that you're a public figure. Keep those comments to yourself. You don't need to say them. Um and also, this was 2020, right? Why is this just being investigated now? Because you've had now 3 years. It is 2023. Maybe when this allegation was brought up, we could have dealt with it then instead of having to now have a longtime reporter of the company you're running go and say, enough is enough. you're not going to do something about it. Well, I'm going to file a lawsuit so that you have to do something about it. That should never be a thing. You should never, ever have to force someone's hand into investigating an issue. I I, I might be old fashioned, but that just sounds completely ridiculous. Honestly, I really don't understand that. But again, racism is not okay. It'll never be gotten rid of, but if you have those kind of, you know, comments, just keep them to yourself, please. Like it doesn't need to be said. And I know that NFL fans, myself included, will probably back me up on this and say that we're tired of all this legal stuff from the NFL. We had to deal with the Deshaun Watson stuff a couple years ago. We had to deal with a bunch of different things a couple years ago, and now we have to deal with this and hear about this. We're tired of it. If you had just done the job and decided to, I don't know, investigate it when it was brought up in the first place, this probably would have been over by now. But anyways, that's all I'm going to comment on this situation. If there are any updates, I will obviously try and update you guys throughout the show. But anyways, this is Ryan Koki of the Seahawk Recap Show, episode number 6 of News of the Week, signing off. And make sure that you come back on Monday to the channel for week 2 Seahawk game recap versus the Lions. And hopefully they can actually get a win this time. Anyways, this is Ryan Koki of the Seahawk Recap Show signing off. Go Hawks, go.